So it's 2024, and men are still being discriminated against in the workplace. The question is, why do we still allow it? Here's a post from Reddit. You can see the title, Companies Hire Women Over Men in 2024. You could have had this exact same story, and had the title could have been Companies Hire Women Over Men in 2014, and it would have been exactly the same thing. So here we go. From the top. I'm a 28-year-old man from Canada in sales, and I'm starting to think that for white-collar jobs in 2024, it's much, much harder for a man to get hired. Next two paragraphs. Just some friends of mine and girls I go on dates with. I keep noticing all these girls I meet are literally working in software sales, tech sales, med device sales, and literally most of them told me it's their first job out of university and they got reached out to by some recruiter and began as an intern, so didn't even have to apply. Meanwhile, I have years of sales experience, proven track record of closing accounts, and never missing target. But when I apply to the same job, I get a rejection letter in less than a week without even getting an interview. Now, already, you could imagine what kind of responses this guy is probably getting. Oh, you're an incel. Oh, you just hate women at work, or you just don't want to lose your place in the power structure, and you're just threatened by women now. They're not behind men. No. He's not saying that he's against women being hired. He's just saying, hey, I'd like a job too. I have the same qualifications, and he's also noticing that men seem to be falling behind or discriminated against. Why is it invalid for him to point this out? Like, what's wrong with bringing this up? And the next paragraph. And then when I talk to these girls, so many of them tell me they don't even like sales or they suck and they just want to work remote and travel. Meanwhile, I notice so many of the boys are having trouble even getting an interview. Now, some people might say, well, this sounds very misogynistic, putting down the female employees and assuming they don't want to be there or don't belong there. But flip the genders, and it would sound exactly like a highly upvoted post complaining about men and lazy men and entitled men that you see all over social media. So this is a story from his current job, and it's pretty insane. I mean, just try and imagine if the genders were reversed. And before people say, well, this is to help women catch up the historical gap, this has been happening since before a 28-year-old would even have been born. So, from the top, I'll give another example. At my current sales job, a girl and I, who was my former coworker, were competing for a position as senior account manager instead of as the account manager. I kid you not. In Southern Ontario, where I'm from, I was ranked 8th in sales, and this was out of hundreds of employees. And she was ranked 62. So he's ranked 8th, she's 62. And I wasn't even reached out to apply to the position, yet HR went out of their way to invite her to apply to it. I only applied to it after she brought it up to me. Craziest part is that before our interview, when my boss was prepping me, he told me straight up, you're the better salesman, bro, but this company loves to have a proven track record of female employees moving up the company. So don't be surprised if she gets it over you. I'm just letting you know so you don't get upset. Just imagine a woman being pulled aside and said, listen, we know that you're the better person for the job, but this company, we love promoting men, so you're probably not going to get it. Now, feminists will say, well, yeah, that's how it was in the 50s and 60s. But the thing is, today and for the last decade, that's just not the case anymore. And how it finishes is actually pretty funny. So here we go. And after her and I did the interview, a week later, our district manager literally congratulated her on getting it before we even found out the results. So it was such an assumption that the woman would be hired over the man that she was congratulated before the results even got in. But anyway, to continue, second paragraph. I did end up getting it over her, and the guy who hired me literally told me in his eyes I was the obvious choice, but it took a while for everyone to make the choice. In other words, he was very, very clearly more qualified and deserved it more, but just because he was a man, a lot of people really, really, really didn't want to hire him. And that's not something that happened in the 1950s or 60s or 70s. That's happening to people who are alive now. Why should men be punished for things that happened before they were born? The question is, why don't men care? And right now, on your screen, I'm looking at you. Why don't you care? Why are you okay with this? Why is no one saying anything? Sure, you see these posts on the men's rights subreddit, but men, for the most part, just accept it and they go along with it. And even worse, they join in and they insult and mock other men who try and say something about it. It's just mind boggling to me. But what scares me the most is when I think, what is the end game? How far will it go?